Mike, as you just mentioned, the CDC this week officially updated its guidelines on how COVID-19 spreads, acknowledging that while the virus mainly spreads through close contact with an infected person, airborne transmission to people farther than 6 feet away is another avenue for spread of the virus. So, Mike, do you agree with the CDC's position?
Well, let me just say that I think the way they sliced and diced it was a bit challenging. And what I mean by that is, they did acknowledge that the aerosol or airborne transmission route occurs, meaning these fine particles that float in the air. But, they went the extra step to say that it's unlikely that this is responsible for much transmission. Well, that's just not consistent with the epidemiology. Again, I have talked about this in previous podcasts, but this is a lot like your head's in the freezer, your feet are in the oven, and average your temperatures just right. For a large percentage of cases of COVID-19, you see them transmit to very, very few people, particularly in the household setting. Very reminiscent of a classic droplet type transmission model, one where there is actually not much virus. And if you studied that group, you would come away completely convinced, inappropriately so, that this is largely droplets. This is not anything to do with airborne transmission. And it's got to be very close contact for transmission. On the other hand, up to about 20% of the infected individuals probably account for 80% of the transmission, where in those settings, we actually see dynamic transmission, just like we saw at the White House. I don't have any, primary knowledge of the issues at the White House, but I will bet you right now that most of that transmission, if not almost all of it, didn't occur in the Rose Garden. The outdoor air dissipating the virus as we think about it. There were 2 receptions held inside the White House for a much more limited number of individuals. And right now we can place virtually all the people who were infected in those indoor small room environments, where their aerosols clearly can play a key role in terms of basically capturing a room with that fog of virus that you don't see. And so I think the CDC still needs to further refine the fact that to reconcile the droplet world and the aerosol world means you have to recognize there are really kind of almost two epidemiologies of this disease transmission. And that's what's key to understanding how to look at aerosols. And I think the aerosol particle technology experts, the aerobiologists, the industrial hygienists would all say the same thing, that that's the case. And so, we're appreciative that we're making progress in understanding how transmission occurs, appreciating the role of aerosol-related transmission or airborne transmission, and also understanding the implications for this. This idea of having a fine line at 6 feet, it's almost like, either you're on one side or the other side of 6 feet. One's a cliff 1,000 miles down. The other one, is the top of the mountain 1,000 feet up. So I think that's the challenge we have, is there's no fine demarcation. And aerosols can change that a lot, and we're going to have to understand that as we move forward.